Before we start this week's episode of Just Gay Stuff podcast, we have to issue a trigger warning. This episode touches on themes of self-harm and violence. If this is something that will make you uncomfortable, we will give another trigger warning just before it's about to happen in the episode, and feel free to skip ahead. Thank you, everyone.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about Just Gay Stuff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Just Gay Stuff podcast. My name is Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're getting silly up on here. It's Tuesday.
here.
It's Tuesday. You're listening on a Wednesday because that's when our Joy episodes come out on the FM.
Yep.
We're happy to be bringing you another fabulous guest this week.
We are. I'm super excited for this one.
This is funny because you may have watched him watch TV on your TV.
Say that again.
Watch TV on your TV. Yeah, you get the picture. It's like one of those pictures that you keep seeing inside of. He's a fellow Joy FM supporter.
Woo.
And if you haven't got the hint yet, we are talking to Tim from Gogglebox.
Welcome, Tim.
G'day, Jess. G'day, Lauren. How are you both?
Good, thank you.
We are fabulous. How are you?
Oh, well, it's a Tuesday night, so it's as good as it can get.
Yeah.
That's true.
How's the week been? Day 2 of the week.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Friday. I really am.
I'd say, aren't we all?
Oh, I've started keto at the moment,
no.
and I think I'm starting to feel the keto flu, so
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
no.
real thing.
it really is. Like, I'm feeling irritable. I think I've got back pain. Oh, I think I'm just getting old. I don't know if it's old age or whether it's keto fever, whatever it is, but
How do you go with keto with all that lovely Asian cuisine?
oh, Asians don't believe in diets. Asians don't believe in minimizing carbs. So I'm literally eating, and this is the best part of keto. I'm deep frying bacon in butter when I need a snack, and I'm eating blocks of cheese, and it's probably the best diet I've been on.
Sounds like it.
That's pretty good.
I get to eat crackling and pork belly whenever I want.
Okay, that's pretty good then. I can't
Yeah,
argue
it
that. Lauren's a
I was
vegetarian.
like, I'm a vegetarian,
She
so
doesn't,
I can't
she
answer
doesn't
that.
know the joys.
Oh, no.
But I'm
It's
not.
fine. It's not by choice.
I eat it all for her, and I'm just like, I wish you could have this. Sorry.
No, she's not. She's like, I'll eat this.
Now, Tim, we've been corresponding since last year, can you believe? And I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but if everyone's heard, Tim was off getting married last year, and he didn't have 1 or 2 weddings. He had 3. So tell us about that, Tim. Most people have so much stress over just 1 wedding.
I technically had 4 weddings.
Ooh, an
Aw.
extra one.
Oh,
Jeez.
yeah. So the first one wasn't like anything exciting. Well, actually, I suppose it was because it's the legal wedding. So it's like my husband. It's still so weird saying the H word, but it's my husband Mark and I, my sister Leanne, who's on the couch with me on Gogglebox, our middle brother, our mum, and Mark's mum and dad, and his best mate Danella. So it was just us and the celebrant getting married legally. And then we had the second wedding, which is the official Australian wedding. And we got married at the old Melbourne jail.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, I mean, everyone says that weddings or marriage is like, a,
Like
a
jail.
lifetime sentence. So we kind of thought, why not get married in Australia's oldest prison?
Fair.
My husband loves Ned Kelly. So it was an amazing opportunity to actually get married where he was in prison and then hanged.
Wow, yeah.
What a cool
Yes.
wedding story.
That reminds me
Yeah.
of Kath and Kim when Kath's talking about getting married to Kel, and she goes, and then they decapitate the bride and the groom after.
Yeah. I would have loved to have Kath and Kim there.
Oh
Oh,
my
my God. I'm
God.
the biggest Kath and Kim
Oh,
fan.
God.
Oh
Here
my
we
God.
go.
It's going to be
Yeah.
a face-off. It's either you or
I
me,
know.
Tim.
No, I actually live 5 minutes drive away from Fountain Lake Shopping Centre.
Wow.
Is it your local?
It is my local.
I love it.
Yeah. Suppose we should get back to the wedding thing. But
Yeah.
so my third wedding, our third wedding was in Scotland, which is, where my husband's heritage comes from. In fact, my husband calls himself a European bitster because he is part Irish, part Scottish, part English, and part Swiss.
Wow.
Yes. So we've been to Scotland quite a few times. We absolutely love that country. And what better than to get married there? So we got our chosen family flown in from all around the world, and we hired an old hunting lodge that was built in the 1600s, and we were there for the entire week.
Wow.
That sounds so beautiful. I really want to travel to Europe and Scotland because I've never been outside of the country before.
I'm seeing a running theme here. It's like jail, then a hunting lodge.
Are you sure your husband's not trying to kill you?
Where was the fourth one, Tim?
Well, I hope not. I have to check my will.
If you see any weird life insurance policies come up, run.
Yeah, no, I'm at this moment. If he takes me out, he's getting a whole lot of debt. Yeah. So it was literally the experience of a lifetime. We were initially concerned about having different parts of our lives and different kind of circles of friends come together, how we would go. But it actually was such a dream thing. Everyone connected so well, so closely. In fact, after the actual Scottish wedding, everyone came back together and we called ourselves the Kirkhill family because it was actually the Kirkhill mansion that we stayed at.
Wow.
So, and to this day, we're still chatting as a group. And in fact, we're trying to organize a 5th anniversary reunion back at the same hunting lodge.
I'm glad you didn't say 5th wedding.
No. Oh my goodness, no.
A renewal of vows in a year's time? That would be nice.
That would be really nice. So in a year's time, so I'm already planning my husband's birthday for the end of this year. So
Wow, there
I've
you
planned
go.
all the holidays for this year. So I haven't planned for next year yet. Maybe a sneaky trip back to Scotland.
That might be fun. Fun idea.
That
I think you
sounds
should join
lovely.
us then.
Oh,
I think you'll
yes.
love Scotland.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
Lauren
you'll
and
love
I have never
Scotland.
been, so we'll definitely come.
Oh, I think it's my second home. The Scots are just so friendly. I love the food. You're probably not going to like this so much because you're vegetarian, but haggis is amazing. It is offal with oats and spices wrapped in a sheep's stomach and then boiled. It's delicious.
Lauren's like taking your word for it there.
Yeah. but to be fair, mine is not vegetarian by choice. It's a medical thing. So it's not like I'm like, oh, the animals
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
thing. It's
no.
just I can't physically process the meat.
Yeah. Which is such
Oh,
a shame
right.
because we'll have meat at home and she's like, God, I'd love a lamb chop.
Literally. I just watched Jess eat ribs and I was like, damn it.
Yeah, they were really good
Oh,
too.
no. So have you always not been able to process protein? Or is it
No.
a recent thing?
I think I've been vegetarian for the past 6 years now. But funny, I actually did keto first, and that's how I started and realized I wasn't eating as much meat. And then meat was expensive because it was during COVID. So I just got rid of that. And then when I tried to add the tiniest bit of mince in, I was in so much agony. So
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh no, that's probably worse.
Yeah.
Because you've actually you know how amazing. meat is.
literally,
Oh,
it's not even a
no.
moral thing.
This is a giant foodie conversation right now.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
It's all right. Speaking of food, there's amazing food at weddings. This was a weird segue, but with planning 4 different weddings and now obviously a fun vow renewal, how stressful was it? Did you and your husband share the load of planning the wedding?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I did most of the heavy lifting.
Did you hear that?
No.
Mark? Did you hear that?
Well, I'm actually a project manager by trade.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm a Prince 2 practitioner. So you're probably going to glaze over at that. But I love project management. I love spreadsheets. And by the end of the organization process, I think I had like 4 Excel documents with consolidated at least like 40 different worksheets and pivot tables everywhere. It was like a PM's wet dream. I
Wow.
enjoyed.
Maybe you should get into politics, Tim. You'd be a dream working there.
No, I can't compromise my ethics. So
Yeah, true,
no,
true.
thanks. Yeah, no, it was incredible. And I suppose the 4th wedding was in Malaysia because I was born in Penang.
Wow.
So we wanted to kind of honor both Mark and my heritage and celebrate the love, with the people we cherish.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Malaysia is a Muslim country. And obviously, same-sex marriage is illegal. And whilst we weren't getting legally married in Malaysia, my extended family obviously were concerned about the potential fallout.
Yeah.
So on the outset, everything just looked like a big family dinner. We had a 10-course dinner, and that's what it looked like, just a family reunion.
Yeah.
But, everything else happened behind the scenes in terms of, we would have the Chinese tea ceremony behind closed doors. So we had all those things. But it was a nice way to close off the whirlwind international wedding journey.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that they've had that experience. That's amazing.
I feel like you could literally write a movie about your wedding journey.
There you go, Tim. That's your next project. You're going to make a
would wanna
movie.
Who would want to watch that? It would just be two frumpy old gays traveling around the world just drinking and eating.
That
It sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's like you're selling it already. So
I can kind of see like Stanley Tucci in it. Didn't he do something like that recently? He
Around Italy, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty sure I watched you watch it.
Yes, I think it was on Gogglebox. I mean, if he had hair, I think he'd be a silver fox hottie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lesbians, and I couldn't even see that.
yeah.
And Butch isn't my type. I mean, look at Lauren. So
What are you talking about? I'm the butchiest of them all.
you don't wear the pants. Calm down.
Hey.
I just wanted to touch on something really sweet that you said. I think it was on your third wedding, you created this little community amongst your family members that you still have daily. That's so amazing and nice.
Yeah, we actually had no idea how that was going to happen and how it was going to come about, because initially we were very worried. So we had a few token straights there. So
yeah.
we didn't know how well they were going to blend with our Australian chosen family and, with our British chosen family as well. So there was concerns about whether they were going to blend, because we're all going to be staying together on a very small 35-acre property. So, we had to get along well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hunting lodge only had like 25 rooms. So it's only. So, but we didn't expect it for all our different circles to blend so well together. My husband and I were just talking about it the other day, and we just cannot believe that the Kirkhill family is still strong and that we're talking about reunions. In fact, I had a lot of them over at New Year's Eve and Chinese New Year. So it's the people that we choose that I think represent so much more than the ones that you're forced to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that all too well in the queer community, don't we? That chosen family is so important. And to bring people together like that they then feel like family, that must be such an elated feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it probably makes sense that, our circles will probably blend, because we kind of seek the same kind of people who are honest, people who believe in integrity and who are kind and generous. And it makes sense that they all got together, that they got all well together.
And the familiarity is that they all share love for you and Mark. So that's what brought them together there at that point in time as well.
And
Yes.
if no one liked anyone, you were already at the hunting lodge.
Yeah.
Actually, funnily enough, the house rules were, despite it
Don't
being a
shoot
hunting lodge,
anyone.
don't shoot anything. So there was wild deer. I was going to say there was wild venison around the property, but there was wild deer around the property. We weren't allowed to shoot them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just an old building that apparently was haunted or is haunted.
Ooh.
And I found out from the caretaker when we first arrived. So it was just Mark and I when we first arrived. He did tell us that one of the rooms was haunted by one of the original owner's wife, who died in the house because the owner ran out of money and wanted to claim insurance. So he burnt the house down, but didn't realize that his wife was asleep in one of the other rooms.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my God.
Yes. So one of our guests actually experienced something.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask next. Did you experience anything, or did you notice anything?
I was going to
Yes.
say, no wonder he didn't know she was in one of the rooms. There was bloody 25 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yes.
too.
So our two good friends from Adelaide, Anthony and Ryan, they were, Ryan was ready asleep and Anthony was getting out of the shower. And as he walked out of the ensuite, there's this very old, antique, heavy-set cabinet at the end of the bed. And it's one of those old ones where it's very heavy, so you need a bit of force to open it. But as he was coming out of his ensuite, the door slowly creaked open
No.
by itself.
Creepy.
And he thought, that's really weird. So he went there and closed it and made sure it slammed shut. He then went back into bed, put the covers on, And then all of a sudden, he heard rustling in the cupboard, like rustling in there, and the door reopened.
Nah, I'd be out of there so quick.
Do you have goosebumps now?
I do. And they're not even on my legs; they're up my back. That's creepy. Oh my god.
That's crazy.
So really, you had an extra guest at the wedding that wasn't invited.
Yeah, well, at least they didn't eat anything, so we didn't have to set another table.
fair.
Yeah, that's the expensive part, right?
Exactly. Oh my
How
god.
considerate of them.
And as we mentioned in the intro, Australia knows you from the couch on Gogglebox. What made you go onto the show?
Well, the thing is, we didn't apply to be on the show. So my sister and I, we didn't audition, we didn't apply. I think it just so happened that a casting producer follows me on social media because I film a lot of content about food and travel. And two families had left at the same time. So there's the wonderful Tom and Wayne from Melbourne, and then Angie and Evie from Sydney. Unfortunately, you know, two very well-loved families left at the same year, and they were looking for someone else to replace them. So I think they were out hunting, and one of the casting producers follows me on social media. And I think the night before, I may have gone to a relatively well-known restaurant, paid a fortune for the degustation menu and felt underwhelmed, and may have said something in my stories and said that I felt more satisfied after paying for a $5 kebab by the side of the road. I think the casting producer liked my honesty, gave me a call the next day, and he said, "Oh, we'd love for you to potentially consider coming on to one of our shows." And, you know, I suppose being Asian, and all I take photos and videos of is food. I kind of thought, oh, it's a food show or a food cooking competition. And I said, thanks, but no thanks, not interested. And they said, no, it's for this other show we do. And when they said it's for Gogglebox, I said, oh, that's interesting. So that's kind of how it started.
Wow.
And
That's pretty cool.
yeah, like, what is it? How many seasons is it now? I think it's my 14th season now.
Wow.
I think.
I can't believe it's been that long already.
But they do 2 seasons a year, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So technically, this is only our 7th year.
Yeah.
So it's not that long.
Still long.
I
7
know
years
all
is
of
long.
this. I know all of this because I watch Gogglebox religiously. So I know when there's like a season coming, and I know when it's about to end because I get really depressed.
We have 10 episodes per season.
I know it's not
So-
enough,
Not
Tim.
enough, yeah.
It's
It's
not
not
enough.
enough. So many people say that you should film all year round. And you know what? I actually love doing it. It is the best gig ever. I mean, we sit on the couch, watch TV, eat and drink, and I do it with my sister. I mean, I'd happily do it 365 days a year.
Yeah, that's lovely. And did it take much convincing to get Leanne into Gogglebox, or she was happy
No.
to go on there with you?
She was happy to go on it. Leanne was saying the only thing was, you know, she would have hated it was a show where there was competition because we're typical brothers and sisters. We argue, we bicker, we yell at each other. So she didn't want that kind of programming.
Yeah.
But the fact that we get to sit down, and we normally do this anyway, we go to the movies. None of our partners actually enjoy going to the movies with us because we are the annoying viewers who'll be yelling at the screen.
So Gogglebox was perfect for you, really.
Yeah, it really, really was.
You know how they say perfection finds us?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to Tim and Leanne.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so there was no audition process. Let me know if you can answer this one or not. But I did want to know, do the people stay with you with the camera, or do you just get a camera set up and then they leave?
Look, I don't want to talk too much about the production process.
Yeah.
All I will say is that a fairy comes, waves her little wand, and it just happens.
Okay,
Fair.
that's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
I don't want to ruin it.
You don't want to ruin the
for
magic.
you.
Don't break the
don't
fourth
break
wall
the
of
fourth
television.
wall of the magic.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fair. We'll leave Gogglebox where Gogglebox is.
Yeah, on the magical
On the
mountain that is
magical
all holy.
TV. But speaking of Gogglebox and the processes, have you ever just watched yourself back when the show has aired? And like, is that
No.
really strange? Okay.
No.
You answered that so fast.
Yeah. So Leanne and I, we are, as far as we're aware, we're the only Gogglebox family that actually doesn't watch Gogglebox.
Wow.
Really?
We did watch the first season, and we kind of noticed something really, really weird, really interesting, is that I think we were subconsciously trying to become or emulate the other Gogglebox families to, maybe get more airtime. And it kind of turned us into something that we're not. And, we wanted to be authentically ourselves. So we make the conscious decision to stop watching. And honestly, it's been the best decision ever. So we just sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we just have a laugh, and it's, I think, so much more enjoyable that way.
That makes so much sense, because I suppose when you see something on TV, you think, oh, well, this is the caliber that I have to live up to, and I want to make sure I'm doing a good job. But I mean, obviously, when you didn't audition and someone's reached out to you specifically, they want you for your personality and what you're going to bring to the table, not what everyone else is already bringing.
Exactly. And, with Gogglebox, the beauty of it is that you want that family to represent a certain demographic in our community. And if all they're doing is emulating a more popular family, then you're kind of eroding the reason you're there.
Which is a perfect segue to this next question, actually.
Right.
Because being a queer cast member, was that something that you thought about going on the show, that you would become real queer representation for Australian community?
When I first started on Gogglebox like 14 seasons ago, I'll admit I was very naive about any impact within the LGBTQI plus community, because truthfully, I didn't know anyone who watched Gogglebox who's part of the community.
Right.
So I didn't think that I'd have the reach and influence that I actually did. But, when I started receiving messages from people all around Australia and the world sharing what it means to see someone like me on the screen, or, that tell me about their struggles of coming out and the experiences of discrimination of being Asian within the LGBTQI plus community. But, seeing me living myself openly and authentically, it kind of gave them hope. And it was really humbling. And honestly, it totally caught me off guard. I remember one night a few years ago, I was out with some friends at Circuit in Melbourne, which is this club in Melbourne. And we headed upstairs to Molly's, which is more of like a pub version of the club. Because it's a lot easier to get a drink up there. All the young twinks are downstairs. They can fight for the bars down there. I go up and I happily get my G&Ts from there. But anyway, this gorgeous twink comes up to me, and he was like a little nervous initially, and he actually asked, Tim, can I give you a hug? And I said, of course, yes. And then he starts telling me his incredibly personal story.
Trigger warning, guys.
He was in a really dark place, struggling, with his identity, having been kicked out of home because he came from a very ultra-religious conservative family. And he said that he was actually contemplating self-harm. So I don't know if you're going to have to put maybe,
we'll put a trigger warning
on this. But he actually decided to put the TV on, hoping to distract himself just for a moment, just to break that. And Gogglebox happened to be the first thing that opened up on his screen, and it was the episode where I was talking about my coming out experience. And for some reason, it resonated with him, and he felt connected with this. And he says, in a way, in a small way, he said, maybe I'm not the only one. And he told me he then went back and watched every single episode of Gogglebox. He'd never watched the show before, and he went back and watched every single episode after that. And I won't lie, I cried in the middle of Molly's when he told me this story. And unfortunately, I didn't get his name, I didn't get his contact details or his social media handles or anything. So I'm kicked myself, because I would have loved to see where he is now. So if you're listening to this, please DM me, because I'd love to see where you are now and love to reconnect with you, because your story really, really affected me.
Yeah, what a beautiful feeling knowing that you essentially helped save someone's life, really. And that's why we do what we do on the podcast as well. And, have everyone share their stories to know that you're not alone.
I think that is 100% part of the magic of being authentically ourselves in front of a large audience, no matter how daunting that might be.
Absolutely. And it's probably the proudest thing I've done. And initially I was thinking, if I could just help one person on this couch on commercial TV, then it's all worth it. The fact that, I'm hoping that, having this talking head on TV, and using what little platform I have to advocate for, equality and challenging stereotypes and show the world that being queer is to be celebrated.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
And you know what us queers are like? When we see other queer representation on TV, we're like, one of us. One of us. I felt joyful when you started talking about same-sex relationships and your own coming out story on Gogglebox. I felt elated. I was like, yes, here's what we need. It's not just a story on television. It's a real
modern
person.
representation.
Yes, and it's all about that relatability. You changed that guy's life, and that's such an amazing feeling. And, that's one person that's come up to you. I'm sure there's hundreds more, Tim.
I hope so, because it's quite sad, but in the last few years, I actually lost two friends, Asian and, part of our community. And one of them I lost, I think we just celebrated his passing, the anniversary of his passing, because, being Asian and being part of the community is tough.
Yeah.
It really, really is so difficult. Obviously, like anyone coming out, but having this whole cultural Asian kind of expectation, it adds such a difficult layer to our story. Asians, we're not known to be, expressive with our emotions. When I grew up, I never got a hug from my parents, and I don't think I ever heard the words, "I love you." It was never uttered. They showed love in other ways and expressed in different ways, like, acts of service and, always putting our needs first. But love language was never something part of an Asian, especially, our parents' generation's vocab.
Yeah.
So my friend, unfortunately, he was told by his family that he wasn't allowed to attend the family Chinese New Year celebrations because he brought dishonor to the family and to their name. And the next day he took his life, and it was just
Horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah. That's why it's so important that, we are trying to normalize the fact that we are just human. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't understand is we're just trying to spread more love.
That's it.
It's
We're not trying to hurt anybody
And
or
that's
force
it.
anything on anyone.
That's
We're
it.
just trying to exist.
Exactly. And, we all bleed the same. We all feel pain the same. We all want to triumph in the same way. And especially, I know there's a lot of things surrounding when people say love is love on the internet at the moment, but love between two consenting adults is just that. It should just be seen as just that.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
it's such a shame that people who just want to love who they want to love leave this world in a way where they could have existed and people could have just let them and didn't.
Yeah.
So
it's sad that they felt that was the only way for relief.
Yeah. I know you've spoken about your coming out journey on Gogglebox, but would you want to share it with us here now for all of our listeners too on the pod?
Yes. Well, I think it's quite anticlimactic. It's not some grand Hollywood heart-stopper movie coming out thing, but I've actually got two experiences.
Go for it. I want to hear them all.
So I kind of thought... Yes. So one's obviously, I think the one you would have heard on Gogglebox would have been my coming out to my mum, and the other one's coming out to my best mate.
Okay.
So my mum, let's do the dramatic one first. Imagine this, it's late at night, I'm in year 11, and mum has just picked me up from ballroom dancing classes.
Okay.
So, as if that wasn't enough for her to know.
Give it away.
We're trying to break the stereotype, but also, Tim, that was a giveaway.
That was totally a big giveaway. But anyway, we got into this big, dramatic diva argument in the car. And in a moment of my teenage angst, I decided I'm going to drop the gay bomb, right? And I thought it would hurt her and it would damage her. But her response actually completely caught me off guard. She just calmly said, "Do you really think I didn't know? I've known since I was 10. So, like all mums, that was a total deflation of my ego in a second. Obviously, in my head, I had a whole different dramatic, scenario planned out. Parents just owning me, kicking me out of the house, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. But the reality was so much gentler, so much more simpler, and so much more entrenched in love. My mum just loved and accepted me completely and wholly for who I am. So that was just, I think,
Beautiful.
for an Asian,
is beautiful.
one of the
Yeah.
best coming out stories you can imagine.
Yeah.
And to the less dramatic coming out was to my best mate, Adrian. It was our year 12 formal, and a whole bunch of us stayed over at his mum's place. And I was a nervous wreck because I didn't want to ruin our friendship, but I also couldn't keep holding on to the secret any longer. So I thought it was a little bit unconventional, but I actually went and talked to his aunt first.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's weird, but I kind of guess so she was she was the dyke.
Oh,
so
okay.
Oh, lovely.
she was
Yeah, I
a
love
butch
that.
dyke.
You were like safe
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, safe person.
Exactly, she was very safe. So I kind of thought, okay, at least, like their family, and he didn't have any outward homophobia to her. So I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to get, a sense of how he might react from her. So, but she encouraged me to go and speak to him directly. So I went into his room and I confessed my deepest secret. He turned around and he told me he was gay too.
Oh, I love that.
So we came out to each other on the same day, and it was just incredible. And to this day, Adrian is still my best mate. He lives in Bristol now with his husband.
Wow.
And I had the honor of being their celebrant when they got married here in Melbourne.
That's
my
and
so
he was
cool.
and he was my best man in Scotland.
Oh,
love that.
amazing.
That's kind of like Jess and her best friend. They came
Yeah,
out
we
to
came
each
out
other.
to each other as well.
Ah!
And it's so funny. Don't you think it's funny, like when you're a kid and you look back, you didn't have an inkling about that person and they didn't have an inkling about you. But then
No.
looking back at your childhood, you're like, yeah, duh.
Yeah. But then again, I don't actually have a gaydar or a LGBTQIA plus dar.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Every time it goes off, the person's straight.
Yeah. You have a straight duh.
Straight up.
It's a straight dar, exactly. So maybe I should think, if I think they're gay, they're definitely straight. If they're straight on my dar, they're gay.
Yeah. I have a
Yeah.
friend who's the same, that like we'll be playing a show or whatever, and like some really nice looking guy will walk past and he'll go, do you think that guy's gay? And I'm like, no, not at all. Like, what is giving you that vibe? And people are like, oh, I can smell it. It's like a pheromone or something. I'm like, no, they're not giving off any pheromones to you. Trust me.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Speaking on your cultural background and stuff and how it differs from coming out without the cultural background. I'm half Indian, and unfortunately my dad wasn't around when I came out, so I really don't know how accepting he would have been, or maybe not would have been. But as that year 11 kid coming out to your mum, did you have that fear at all?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to show my age here. But so it was in the late 90s when I was in high school. So LGBTQIA plus conversations and topic wasn't really mainstream. And all we had at the back of my mind were all these traditional conservative stories about being gay is wrong, and that if you embrace, homosexuality, you are going to be bowled over by the Grim Reaper. So you two are probably way too young to remember that horrendous HIV ad about Grim Reaper with a bowl.
we've
with all-
seen it. We've seen it.
Oh.
We were
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
grew up in the 90s.
Yeah, but we weren't in high school in the
No.
90s. We were in primary school in the 90s, but still,
Yeah.
we do remember the ad. It's terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up with that and watching all these Hallmark movies about, gay kids being kicked out of home, and, having heard a lot of stories about Asian parents completely 100% 180 disowning their kids. So obviously I created this narrative in my mind, and it caused so much trepidation and anxiety in me. I hyperventilated, and I think for the first time in my life, a week before I actually came out to mum. And admittedly, I hadn't planned on coming out to mum the way I did, but I knew I wanted to come out to her soon. And just the stress and anxiety created so much turmoil in me, because I was seriously so worried that she was going to kick me out of home, disown me, and, all these things that you hear that's still happening in 2025.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, so I would have thought as a species we would have evolved beyond that, but I guess not. But I have faith in humanity. I truly do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime, but I feel that it will happen one day. We just have to keep striving and keep fighting for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about that fear that you did have, considering it was quite a wait, did you have a backup plan for if things didn't go the way that it did?
No.
Wow.
I was a good Asian son.
Yeah.
I studied, studied, studied. That's pretty much all I did. I'd get home from work and I would have a tutor waiting for me. And that was weekdays and weekends. So
Wow.
I didn't really have a social life. So for me, I was very truly closeted, not just in my sexuality, but in my general life and life experience. That's why the fear was so great, because if I was kicked out of home, I had no plan B. I have no failover or redundancy. I would have been homeless.
Wow.
Obviously, I had my friends from school, but I hadn't come out to them either. So at that point, I probably wouldn't have gone to them because they probably asked why were you kicked out of home. I mean, I couldn't tell them it was because I came out as gay. Because then the fear was they said, oh, no, we don't want you in our house either.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I feel like our straight counterparts have never had to deal with, you know, and that's one level of understanding that really joins us as the queer community together, is that fear of not being accepted for just being who you are.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to me, like 2025 and we still have these things going on, but
Yeah.
small steps.
I head marketing for LGBTQIA plus education charity, and we provide, scholarships to young Aussies around the country. And I have the honor of going through their videos every single year, and my heart breaks hearing their stories and hearing, the difficulties of them just existing because of who they are, because of, their family's expectations on them and their identity. And it's just the fact that you can't say, I'm trans, I'm bi. The mind boggles that you can love someone one day and within a moment you can flick that in your mind, in your brain, and say, you're not my child anymore.
Yeah.
How can you do that?
Love doesn't just go away like that. That's a choice
No.
that someone makes to disown their child. And I'll never understand how, so many people in this world want nothing more than to have children of their own. And we have people out there either hurting kids or turning their backs on their own kids. And that's really something that is hard to swallow.
Yeah.
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 So speaking of stories and growing up in the late 90s and not really having much representation, did you find that you had any representation growing up in terms of like TV or?
I mean, I think it was highly stereotyped back then. If you're a gay man, you're going to be camp as. So I think I loved shows like Will and Grace.
Yeah.
Back then, it was possibly the only kind of queer programming where there were out LGBT representation on mainstream. And I mean, it was great that gays were represented on TV, but there's still so much wrong. There's so much stereotyping about what it meant to be part of the community. But for a young closeted Tim, it was actually still a lifeline, and it showed me in a way that being queer, it wasn't something to be ashamed of, and that worse comes to worse, that there could potentially be an entire community out there waiting to embrace me. And, I was kind of grateful for Will and Grace, in a tiny way for that.
Yeah. And for anyone listening and having that fear maybe at home, there is community waiting to embrace you. You can find it. It is everywhere. You just need to look. Don't focus on the negative people in your life, because it is definitely there. And speaking of, the stereotyping might have been a little bit negative, definitely back in the day, but at least you could see that it was starting to normalize. Like audiences were accepting that in their homes as television programming, right? So that was a step forward at that time.
Absolutely. Because I remember when Ellen came out on her show, I can't remember what sitcom it was, but when she came out, it was big and she was almost cancelled there. She was cancelled back then for the wrong reason, as opposed to the right reason she was cancelled now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I know, right?
But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Well, on the fun side of coming out and self-discovery for Tim,
Oh, goodness.
did you have a queer awakening crush?
It can be a cartoon. I say this every time, but it can be.
I'm going to probably say not really a single person. So I kind of realized that I was a little different when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So, I remember flipping through a Maya catalog and I kind of like, and all of a sudden I see all these cute boys, in surfwear,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew I liked it.
Yeah.
So I started collecting all the Maya and David Jones catalogs. They were like treasure.
Yeah.
I think most of your listeners won't understand it now because, of the internet. But those catalogs, they're like my gateway to a whole new world.
Yeah.
But totally, thank goodness for the internet though, right? I mean, it's much easier to find inspiration.
Yeah. Inspiration. You couldn't just Google inspiration back then. You had to
You had to get a magazine for it.
Did you go up the street of your house and take the catalogs out of everyone else's letterbox? That was Googling things back in the day.
That was Googling back then.
I'm glad that you went there because I thought you were going to say something about mannequins wearing clothes, and I was like, okay, I could get behind this.
I've just been rewatching The Umbrella Academy. So
Lauren loves that show.
yes, it's amazing. So I've just
a good
binged
show.
it again, and number 5 in the love of his life, which is the mannequin.
Yeah. So true.
I love that.
Well, speaking of weird things that have been on TV.
Yeah, speaking of weird things that have been on TV, like that show where we watch people watch TV.
Watch TV. Since being on Gogglebox, how has your life changed positively or negatively?
A little bit of both, actually. I mean, obviously being on one of the country's top rating shows, it really has opened up such incredible doors for me. I mean, I've had opportunities to connect with amazing people, support causes I believe in, and, explore new career paths. I used to be in technology, and because of Gogglebox, I've done a 180 and I've had a career change to work within the not-for-profit space and to give back to the LGBTQI plus community, at the Pinnacle Foundation. So, I have so much to be thankful for there. For me, the biggest positive has been the platform it's given me to advocate, for the LGBTQI plus community. Like most things, that downsides to being in the public eye. In fact, my sister has completely cancelled all her social media. So we used to share the management of our Gogglebox social media accounts. But just as we were entering into COVID, the anti-Asian hate really, really spiked. In fact, I even got a DM directly to me saying, if you were back in Malaysia, you would have your hands cut off and you would be killed for being the poofter that you are.
Jesus.
Wow. People are disgusting.
People are disgusting. I love a good fight. So,
Never back down.
I'll never back down. So I said a few choice, kinder words, and then I blocked the hell out of them.
Yeah.
So I always like to get the last word in and then block them. Bye.
Wow. I was just going to say, I suppose I was naive in a way, thinking about how COVID would have affected you so differently because of your cultural background. So, wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with Leanne gone, I rode the China flu, the anti-Asian hate, and, the orange fantastic that's leading the US at the moment, gave strength to a lot of hidden racists and, gave them strength to stand up and actually be outwardly racist against Asians. And I enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed the challenge, but I shouldn't have to. Not in 2022.
Absolutely. And then still in 2025.
Now, and still in 2025. Absolutely. It's still there. I mean, it's not so much racism, but I had a follower recently send me, and he called it Tim's weight trajectory.
What?
He took a snapshot of me from every single season I was on, and he graphed my weight gain.
Oh my God.
Some people are assholes.
I know some people are assholes. Well, I actually thought congratulations, well done to you, respect to you, because it would have taken a lot of effort to do that. So I'm more impressed by that.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least they wasted their time doing something like that instead of going out and being verbally abusive to somebody and, ruining someone's day or life, But that's the thing that really gets me, is so many people, especially on the internet, I feel like the internet is such a good place for certain things and such a terrible place for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But how many people waste their time and their life putting so much effort into someone else's life?
literally.
Yeah. I call them keyboard cowards.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing warrior-like about them.
That's
They're
so
keyboard
true.
cowards.
I love that. You should TM that, Tim.
I don't actually think I was the first one to come up with
Damn
that.
Damn.
Wow, it's been a bit of a roller coaster
It
of
has.
emotions in this interview. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yes, thank you.
We have one final question.
A question we've been asking everyone
Yeah.
this year.
And it can be kind of a positive or a negative question. For me, I didn't really know how to feel. But the question is, do you like being queer?
Absolutely. Without question, easiest question to answer ever. I think being queer is beautiful and it's an important part of who I am. And it's allowed me to connect with a vibrant, supportive, amazing community, embrace my authentic self, actually know who I am. And, I love to poke the bear. I love to challenge society. And, I wouldn't change a single thing. And being Asian and queer, I think adds another layer of richness to that and complexity to my identity. And I think, it's a beautiful intersection of culture and experience that's shaped who I am and how I see the world. So, yes, I love being queer. It's a gift. It's my superpower and, a source of endless pride.
Oh,
I love that.
amazing. That's the best way to finish
That
this
was
episode.
such a beautiful answer.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, thank you so much, Tim.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I've absolutely loved being on. Like, seriously, this is just like a chat with friends.
I know.
This is
Literally.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, us queers, we have a lot in common,
We do.
No, we absolutely love you, Tim, and we can't wait to see you on the next season of Gogglebox. We'll be
We'll
watching.
be watching.
We'll be watching, and we hope everybody else who's listening to this will be watching Tim on Gogglebox as well and supporting our fellow queers that are on TV, taking one for the team. Well, we hope everybody has enjoyed this chat with Tim. We thank Tim so much for taking time out of the busy filming schedule of Gogglebox to join us here on Just Gay Stuff podcast and on Joy FM 94.9 for all of you listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, until next week.
I guess you better remember to.
Stay gay, motherfuckers!
Thank you so much, Tim.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
That was seriously, that was so much fun. Thank you both. I've really loved this.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.